Okay, legislation committee will now come to order.
Alderman Kennedy, he asked to be excused. Alderman Boyd, Alderman Arnowitz,
Present.
Alderwoman Hubbard, Alderwoman Howard,
Present.
Alderwoman Murphy,
Here.
Alderman Ogilvy,
Here.
Alderwoman Navarro,
Here.
Chairman Vaccaro.
Present, and
Six present, we have a
someone
quorum.
down, because I know Jeffrey's here.
Last I saw him.
Oh, there you go, okay, because
Alderman Boyd,
Present.
I was thinking back there, you can't hear.
7 present, you have a quorum.
Okay, thank you, everybody. Hope everybody had a happy new year. Here to discuss Resolution 169. We discussed this at a previous legislation committee hearing. I wanted, at the end of that meeting, we talked about kind of a minor amendment to the resolution and getting a little more information from the mayor's office about what may be still out there from the 2010 audit that we could still implement, or at least tracking what has and has not been implemented, and thinking about if we do, if the auditor does another audit, how we will implement whatever the findings are in the future. So we have the amendment here. I'd like to pass this out.
You need to make a motion.
I'll pass it out when it's in front of everybody. I'll make a motion.
Just take some down, I'm sorry.
Me, you. Me, and you.
Wait, I'm sorry.
There you go.
Here's, do you guys want a copy of them?
Is there 2 copies? I have one
Okay,
piece.
so here's.
There's 2 sheets. There's the amendment, and then there's the
Right.
resolution after the amendment.
I want to make sure I got one.
Added.
There you go.
Do we have any? Okay, that's it, 'cause yeah, he's got it.
What is it? Lynn?
I gave it to you. You got this,
Oh, here.
I just gave it to you.
Okay, I'm gonna make a motion that we approve Amendment 1 to Resolution 169
May we have a moment to review it?
For this.
Well, I think to put it in front of us
for discussion.
for discussion.
Yeah.
Okay, second.
Okay, so amendment. For discussion.
Yeah, I guess
Okay.
we just.
Alderman Kennedy, Alderman Boyd,
Aye.
Alderman Arnowitz,
Aye.
Alderwoman Hubbard, Alderwoman Howard,
Aye.
Alderwoman Murphy,
Aye.
Alderman Ogilvy,
Aye.
Alderwoman Navarro,
Aye.
Chairman Vaccaro.
Aye.
7 I votes.
Okay, so Amendment 1 is something we discussed at the last committee hearing. We just wanted to make it clear that we're trying to cover every department we can conceivably cover across the city, both local and county offices. So the only thing we changed, the 2010 audit did not include the police department. So in this amendment it says, every department or division that was included in the 2010 audit, plus the police department, plus the parking commission, which it wasn't super clear whether that was included in the 2010 audit or not. So hopefully we've covered everybody. The intent is to include all departments, let the auditor go through all the divisions of local government and bring back their findings when they're done. At this point, I think if we could bring up Mr. Welterman to discuss some of the things we.
I have one.
Yes.
Wait till after this.
No, that's fine. Go ahead.
Okay, I guess in this amendment, It doesn't specify county offices, and I guess that's a legal question. If
So the
we
20
need to define them, you know, as each county office, if we're gonna do this, we might as well go through the whole thing.
The 2010 audit included all of those offices. So what the amendment says is everything that was in the 2010 audit, and that audit included those offices, and then also the police department.
Those offices being
All the same.
the
Recorder of
treasurer,
deeds,
the
circuit
recorder of
attorney,
deeds. Okay,
yes,
all of
collector of revenue,
Okay,
everybody.
all right, I just wanna make sure
Yeah.
that we have,
That 2010 audit listed,
Specified.
it listed by name every department that was
Yeah.
under the mayor, and then it listed all the county offices.
okay,
And they're not all in the summary that was distributed.
Right.
But there is an audit report on the
Online.
website that they did
Yeah.
of every one of those offices.
yeah, yeah, okay, I just didn't know.
So yeah, we're trying to, we mean everybody.
All right.
So Mr. Welterman, you're free to start. Thanks.
Speak.
Yes.
Thank you, Chairman, members. So I was asked to, see where the mayor's office is on this audit, and we've been asking the department heads to look at the 2010 audit and look at the findings and verify what we did and what we didn't do. We're in the midst of this now. I wasn't prepared to present anything that I was happy with yet, and I suspect it'll be about another week, and we'll have a paper to share with you that'll speak to where we missed things and where we did things right. It looks like to me that we addressed a good 75–80% of the concerns in a real nice manner, and there's some, little things. Having been the street director, I remember this audit. I was the director at that time, and it was a great audit. It pointed out some things that, as an engineer, you may miss when you're running a department. So I found it very, very beneficial. It highlighted some things. I don't think there was any, money going home. That's what we all fear,
Yeah.
that it's going the wrong way. And that's kind of what this curtails, it speaks to. But I would ask that you look a little deeper at this and not just look at this financial audit, and that we look at the operations part of it, okay? Being an operations guy, being here almost 30 years, that's where we miss the mark sometimes. Okay, we can say that we went out and bought 10 color TVs that were 50 inches, and they didn't go home, and they're in the facility and we're using them, but did we need it? Did we buy this software for $350,000 and we implement it, but only 2 users are on it? So we need to get into the operations part and follow through that the money we're spending is being used right, and there may be another purpose. So I would ask that you would dive a little deeper into this and look at the processes that these people are doing, and not just the procedures for spending the money. That's a concern of mine. We've never spent that kind of money to do that, but, unfortunately, we have a forestry director that cuts trees that may not be the financial wizard, may not see it all, right? Nothing to bad rap him, but, we need a little more help with that. So that's kind of where, so my commitment is in a week, we'll have a paper that'll take 2010 and bring it up to date and pronounce our weaknesses and our strengths, and we'll share that with the committee. I don't know if there's any questions. And I had one more comment that's a little off, but you were mentioning the state offices, and I have concern that that audit only covered the money that general revenue gives to them, and there's other money that they handle on the county side through the state, the revenues in that, and I'd like to know where that is. And I think you might consider the accountability of those monies and how they're expended. And I believe that was a miss in the 2010 audit. So, Todd's 2 cents.
I want to comment on that. But first, is there anything you can say about, assuming there's a new audit, how we intend to kind of track implementing whatever the findings are? Understanding it'll be, a year or 2 at minimum before we'd have any results from that.
Well, I would anticipate that we would come back and share our results. I mean, we could do that, at budget time when they're here, or we can just present a paper on what we do. You're right, that audit was done. We had some accountability. I remember reporting to the mayor's office, my response, and so it was we would implement, but the immediate follow-up action wasn't done. So that'll be up to me to follow up and keep you guys apprised as to how we take the results and do something. I would be the individual to be accountable for that to you.
Okay. So your last comment about general revenue versus revenue generated by the offices, I agree with. I mean, I thought we've written this in a way that is expansive as it can possibly be and directs the auditor to cover everything, I think that's the appropriate way to go about it. I think even beyond the resolution, as we talk to the state auditor about what the work they're gonna do, I think we can, you know, and I assume both the mayor's office and comptroller's office would interface with them on that. I would just encourage both those offices to make it clear that we should cover all revenue sources, not just general revenue.
No, I agree, we have the Bev Fitzsimmons over there, the deputy comptroller, is real big on the audits, and she would be the one that would probably be able to clean this language up and, you know, make sure we get what we need, right, Jim? I mean, yeah, she's got a lot of experience with that.
Yeah. Okay, we can take, if there's other questions for.
My next concern is, you know, we're gonna have to fund this thing, right?
Yep.
So we all know that we're, you know, we had a $2 million hit in this budget year for the overtime and the unrest, right? So we're looking at how to handle that, and you throw another 1 or 2 million into this mix. That's a $4 million hit. I know in a couple weeks, we're probably gonna hear from the budget director and what we're looking at here at the midpoint of the year. But these are all grave considerations for me if we're looking at trying to find 4 million if everything's flat, you know, and our pension costs continue. So I just wanted to bring that up, because we're all gonna have to manage that when it happens.
Alderman Vaccaro?
I have a question. So, a couple things. One, we already put 7 million in to cover the overtime of the police. We anticipated that in the budget. So there's already 7 million, and they've gone through about, I think it was 2 or 3 of that. But there was money put in anticipating the overtime. And I brought a letter, well, actually, Gerard put this together. He talked to their office, and the audit would be anywhere from $1.2 million to $1.7 million. And I don't know if I gave you one of these. And I had proposed, since, you know, the treasurer's office is certainly, you know, on the one that's about walking around, that she's interested in this audit also. I would hope that she would be willing, she put up the money for the Metro link, north-south, to look at that. I would think that she has the money and the capability of putting up the money
got
to make sure that the audit's paid for. And that's really where I would like to go and find, you know, but, and the other thing, and the reason I did this financial thing, just quickly, is although the resolution doesn't require a fiscal note, the board bill does. And one of the things, and it's up to the chairman, which would be Scott, if we also go with the resolution, but to be more specific, we can do a board bill, making it an ordinance to get done. My thoughts were, and again, it's the chairman's choice, I'd like to get together, like, fast, with the group that, the mayor's office, the different offices, and also the people who are out walking around, so that if we do a board bill, or we go the ordinance route, resolution route, that by next week, we have something put together that we can get going on, so that this gets, because first we gotta do it, then we gotta find the funding, first thing is to get something through, so, that's just my only questions. I believe we still have money built in on overtime on the police that has not been used.
Right, so,
Yeah.
speaking to the overtime, last year, I believe we used $16 million in overtime. We're still a little over 100 vacancies, so oftentimes, you know, to fill the vacancies, we use overtime. I believe we will exceed that 7 million. By how much, I don't know. Naturally, we have the vacancy cost that can help supplement the 7 million. We will have a much better picture of this, like I said, in mid-January. So I wouldn't be counting my chickens yet. I think we could easily spend 10 million on police overtime this year. I haven't seen any tracking that tells me anything different. I love the opportunity to get some professionals involved in this audit, to sit down with Bev and maybe bring Paul Payne into this and look at the specific language so that we get what you want. Okay, I'm just an engineer, but I think that would be very valuable. And Jim, I'm not speaking for the comptroller, but we could, you know, work together and maybe put something like that together for you.
It was just my question.
Okay.
Ultimately, Scott's the chairman, so.
Yeah, I'm sorry, was I?
No, that's fine. Jim, do you want to?
If I may, one of the things I think we can consider when we look at financing this money is the fact that if we were to pass the legislation and schedule the audit so that it actually gets into their schedule, they have a set schedule of places they're going to be. They may not get to us until into fiscal 19, but that's not to say if we are able to squeeze a modest amount of money into an account that we can carry over, that would be a piece of it. The majority of the work will be done next year, so say maybe we put $750,000, $800,000 into next year's budget. And by the fact of the matter is, we're not gonna do this in a year. And so we can really look at fiscal 20 as being a potential, if there's anything left over that we need to make up, that we can potentially spread this cost, which is a big number, over 3 years, rather than have to make that big gulp all in one time. So that, I'm not Paul Payne, but I think that there's a way that we could do it.
Yeah, I agree with that. I was definitely envisioning this being paid for over a minimum of 2 and possibly more years. So while we've got both Jim and Todd up here, let's just go in order. If there's any questions for either of them, Alderman Boyd.
Sure. Jim, it says on here the state auditor will conduct a performance audit, and one of the things that Todd brought up was operations, which I am 100% on board with. I think that's desperately needed. But do the state auditor, is performance audit only looking at our current policies and procedures, and if we follow the letter of the law according to state law and our local ordinances, or do they do operations as well?
I think that the deeper dive you ask them to perform, we're gonna start running the money out. Generally speaking, they're gonna look at your policy and procedures, they're gonna look at internal controls over, like many departments handle cash. They're gonna look at controls and how you handle that, if your deposits are being made in the manner that they should be at the treasurer's office, daily, weekly, whatever it is. When you get down to the types of operational things that Todd is suggesting, I think that we need to get real selective and specify by department, where do you want to do that? For no other reason in that I think there's perhaps some thought about where there could be some efficiencies made. And everybody has their own opinion about that, but rather than just say we want you to do the deep dive on all the departments and we want you to do the operational audit on everything and everybody, well, we'll probably really run our money up, to a number that could be not manageable. So you're right, the operational audit gets you to looking at procedures, it gets you to looking at what is there, and these are the rules by which you operate yourself. Performance audit this is how you do it. But whether you're doing it or you should have done something else, that's a deeper dive, and that gets into more hours, more auditor time, and a much higher cost. So I think that there's probably places you want to do that, but maybe, I don't know if you want to amend the amendment, but you may want to, and maybe that can be done in the contract that's put together with the state, that the following departments we would like you to take a deeper look at, the following areas. You may even take a department and say we want you to look at this specific function or this specific area of operation within these departments that have so many different facets.
Okay. For years, I've heard about this PFM study. It just sticks in my head. That's some type of, wasn't that some type of operational audit that was done on the city of St. Louis a few years ago? Are you familiar with that?
PFM, not specifically this, PFM has done a number of things. PFM has done the long-range financial plan for the city, and we'll be upgrading that in this fiscal year. They are also the treasurer's auditor, if you will, on how she invests her money. Once a year, there's a meeting usually held right after the first of the fiscal year, under a separate contract with a different division of PFM. They come in and they report to the members of E&A how the treasurer has invested the money and where it's been put, and that they advised her as to how to get the most return. Now, the audit, or the report that you're speaking of, I've not seen. I think it's out there, but I've not seen that one.
Okay. I have one thought, and then I'll give up my questions. Maybe we can be creative, because I do understand that the operational piece may be very expensive, but maybe there's a way we can partner with Civic Progress, some of the colleges that do stuff like this. Maybe some grad students could come in and assist to kind of get a head start. I'm just throwing it out there. That may be something for consideration to kind of minimize costs and create a win-win where some people can actually get some real-world experience at going through some of this. Because I know there's some bright minds out there. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I would just comment that it's very specific to the department. I mean, you could spend, and I think we have spent hundreds of thousands of dollars like on operational audits of, or operational analysis of the fire department or whatever. It's not clear that the state auditor is the best office to do that.
No, that's what I'm not,
Right.
operations, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying, think outside the box
Yeah.
and go to Civic Progress or someone like that.
Okay, next up, Alderman Arnowitz. Any questions? Oh, are we, the list is what it is. Alderwoman Howard.
Thank you. I agree with Alderman Boyd. I think that, you know, if we just go looking to crunch numbers and see if numbers are adding up, I don't, you know, as you said, nobody's walking out with anything in their pocket. But as far as operations and becoming more efficient, that's where our money's going, is with the inefficiencies. And I think we know a lot of this. And as you said, it seems to me we could, with Washington University, St. Louis University, Harris Stowe, all the colleges here, we could employ them on a basis to work with our people to try to remedy some of this and find money that is going out the window just because we're not efficient. And I am really not in favor of spending almost another $2 million to find out what we already know. We need to find out what we don't know, because we don't know what we don't know. I mean, an audit tells us and guides us and finds, you know, some inefficiencies, but many times we don't act on it, and most of the time that's because we don't have the money. So we're throwing money, good money after bad, to get things done. And I guess my question is, if we would have, and I don't know what kind of audit you call it, a functional audit, or what do you call that when you say, okay, this office is doing this, and if you consolidate these offices, you'd have more efficiency and your money would be, you'd have more, more expendable tax dollars. But what are those audits called? I'm not
sure that
Number
I'm
kind
not
of
sure that
person.
there's a specific name that you would call them, but one of the things I think you're hinting at is something that our internal audit group does when we set the audit plan each year, and that is a risk assessment. What we need to do is, or what I think you're saying is, you would like to go through
I'm
and.
deferring to your advice. You're
Well-
that person, I guess, that has
Well,
the
I don't want
expertise.
to say that. I'm
You have
an
more
expert,
expertise
certainly,
than I.
Because I'm not a CPA, but I do, internal audit division does report to me, and what we do is that we do something called a risk assessment, and we look at operations in terms of performance audits where we haven't been in to that department for a long period of time, or perhaps there's been a change in the director, or there's been a change in the elected official, and they request that we get in there and do a performance audit. Or you look at your budget and you look at where do we spend the most dollars, and that's where we're most at risk. And in terms of, if you're gonna save money, you're not gonna save it out of a budget that's got $300,000. You maybe save money out of a $30 million or a $3 million budget. And so when you look at your risk assessment and you kind of hone in on, for that year, where you want to look. And we do that the same thing with contracts. We only have so many hours, and we talked about this a little bit last time, we only have so many hours of audit time available. And so we pick some of the bigger construction projects or bigger ongoing contracts in order to assess, since the greater risk is incurred, the greater dollars to be expended. And so we look at those, and then, from there, we step down to the next level. We'll take a few out of the next level down contracts and so forth and so on. But it comes to assessing, where do you assume there to be the potential for the greatest amount of savings? It's very similar to a risk assessment. And you don't know what you don't know, but based on the amount of dollars that we're spending, you would assume, I would imagine you'd assume that, well, we gotta be able to save something somewhere. Let's look where we actually are spending the money.
The most money.
The most money for the potential most savings. That probably would be the way to go at it.
I guess the other thing is that how do we assess how we're carrying out business? Is there such a thing as that can assess how we carry on our business? In other words, we have all these offices kind of doing their own thing. And I know they're all political offices, and people are very
One of the things
interested in saving their own fiefdom.
Well, and that's, when I'll give you a good example. When I came to work in city government, and I'll just use one office, the collector of revenue had the 4th floor where it is today. And they had a manual system of doing business. The desks were crammed in there so close that you had to scoot behind people to get to where you needed to go, to get to where you were. And once you were in there, you were pretty much stuck, because once people were sitting there, you had to make them move for you to get out. So, and over time, through the prior collector and the current collector, they've gone and found ways to save money, do it better, do it through attrition, and they've reduced their workforce. That's an example of what you're speaking of.
Right.
There's others that are out there, but that's one that I remember watching happen while we were up there on the 3rd floor. So that's what you're looking to achieve. I think the greatest barometer that you find is your citizens. The citizens out there, they'll tell you where it's not happening. If you listen to what they're telling you, where I can't get anything done in this particular area, or it's too hard for me to do this, I can't, that's where your efficiencies and look at how you get things done better might come. It's the results and on the, what the citizens are finding to be the case. And I don't know if any of you have had those conversations. If you've, probably in the back of your mind, you have something that just clicks. So that might be another way to look at what we need to take a more deeper, look at.
One more question. One of the biggest expenditures is personnel and retirements, is that correct? In the
Absolutely.
city's budget?
Yes.
So those are two of the major expenditures. And
Yes.
we're very intimidated by looking at those, I guess, sometimes. And I think that's something that maybe the public doesn't realize, how much that's draining from the budget. Like you said, they realize maybe their trash isn't being picked up, but they don't realize where all the money's going.
Well, the comptroller just recently issued her cash basis financials for the fiscal year that ended last June 30th. And there are there's plenty of data there that speaks to pension costs and speaks to personnel costs in general. And I think you'll find that the employees' pension plan is doing well. It's the other two that are going to need some help down the road, the police and fire. But all that's in the CAFR, as it's called. It's available online through the comptroller's office website.
Okay, thank you. That's all.
Okay, and we'll get the list fixed for next time. Alderman Arowitz, any questions?
Jim, off top of your head, or Todd, you may know this better, what is the cost per year on retirement from the pension for city employees?
I don't know that.
I'll tell you, I got some sheets in my office that Mr. Payne put together.
Okay.
Kind of lines it out. I have it for fire, police, and city employees on averages, and I can share them with you.
And I know it's expensive because the city pays into the pension for city employees. Since I remember, I thought it was 1976 when the employees paid in and they opted out. They opted out to do that and change where the city covered all that. So the last audit was done in 2010. Was that all the city offices?
I think that, I think the last time I was here, I passed out the list. No, it's not, it was not all inclusive, no.
And I guess my other question is, and I'm sure they didn't get into the guts of it all, the operations, but who is it that, who's supposed to go back and follow up when there's noted changes, what an office should do? And what's the time lapse? You know, let's just pick an office and say, you know, be more efficient, you need to do this, that, and that, and that. Do we usually give them a time frame, or does someone really actually follow up on, see if it's being done?
Theoretically, those offices that report through, I guess, the different elected officials, that's how I guess, the follow-up should occur. Some types of the changes, for example, would take 18 to 24 months to implement. So
Right.
there's a longer term of going back and seeing what the results are. But normally, because there's so many different departments with so many different items outlined, normally it's that the follow-up is left to the appointing authority over, or the director over that specific area.
Okay. And that makes sense, because I know you can't make changes overnight, but usually about 24 months, somewhere in there.
Within that time frame, you would expect anything that's gonna happen has
The
happened.
change that's
You would
supposed to
think.
happen.
Yeah.
All right, thank you, Jim, I don't have no more questions.
Okay, Alderwoman Murphy.
No questions really, most of were asked already. I want to wait and see the report that you were talking about, Todd, about the specifics, the more specifics.
Yep.
So I will hold. Thank you.
Alderwoman Navarro.
Thank you. So my question just is about what this resolution, I guess essentially it's opening the door for the scope of an audit to be determined after the fact. And I don't know who this question really goes to, I guess. I mean, because it's a comprehensive, we talked about
Yeah.
performance audits and operational, and this says comprehensive and there's no limitation. So essentially what we're doing is saying we want an audit, and that will then be decided by the mayor's office and the comptroller's office, what that looks like.
It's really decided by the state auditor. So the state auditor has basically absolute discretion to audit any municipality or division of government they want to, except that they are compelled to do an audit if there is a petition completed that by residents of municipalities saying they want something audited. It's likely that petition is out there, as talked about before. It's likely they would eventually get the signatures. So the goal of the resolution is to say, there's gonna be an audit, residents are requesting it. We can also request it. So we're going to the auditor and we're saying, great, go ahead and do the audit. If we're gonna do it, let's include everybody. And the auditor then has to make a decision, are we going to do this or not? And there is the opportunity then, I think, for some since we're requesting it, for some back and forth with us, but honestly primarily with, I think, the mayor's office and comptroller's office to say exactly how and when and do you want this done and what should be covered. So I think the results will be roughly the same, whether it's done via the petition or via this resolution. But I think the resolution gives us a little bit more flexibility in terms of negotiating, how we pay for it. And if we want a deeper dive in a couple areas, I think we'll have some more flexibility if we are the ones requesting it. But it will, at the end of the day, the resolution does not, the state auditor could still say no. they could say, we're not doing anything, and then it would fall, to people gathering signatures on the petition to do it. It's still at her discretion for now, even with the resolution.
And if it were to happen via the petition, essentially the process is still the same at that point. They would still probably work with the mayor and the comptroller in terms of going back and forth and determining the scope and everything. Or does,
Well, they'd have to do the audit, so, and the audit would be comparable to the 2010 audit, except it would include the police department. So, one difference is, the 2010 audit did not include revenue that was not general revenue in a lot of cases, revenue that was generated by departments. I think if we request the audit here, we can ask that they pull all of, all the departmental revenue into the audit, so we get, because there's a lot of revenue out there that's not general revenue. So I think that would help us get a more complete picture of, of all the places the money is coming and going, so.
that specifically isn't part of this language, though.
It is, I think, because
Okay.
it says
Comprehensive?
comprehensive, without limitation,
Okay,
all departments and divisions, and I don't know that that is included in the petition
okay,
language.
okay,
So.
okay. Thank you, that's helpful.
Yes, Alderman.
I just have a question. The petition that's going around, does, that the people are signing, does it say the cost? Does it have the cost on the petition?
Yeah.
It says it'll cost $2 million? Okay. I
That's
didn't know.
actually,
That's not-
that's it.
No, I want the petition.
I don't know.
I just
Is it-
wondered if
this-
people knew what they
No,
were
that's-
signing.
That's
You know, I
from
mean,
the
the
audit.
audit always sounds wonderful,
In
if
case,
we all would
in
that.
case I switched over to a board bill, that was,
I don't
Gerard
think
checked with the
the
auditor's
petition
office,
has
and that was the
Oh,
auditor's response of the cost.
But
I'm
we
just
don't know
curious-
what their
I'm sorry.
petition says.
It's being indicated to me that the petition does have a cost estimate on it.
The cost estimate that's from the state auditor is tied to the petition.
So that when people are signing it, they
They
can
know.
see 1 to 2 million or whatever it says.
I'm not sure if it's on
Mr.
the
Chairman.
physical signature.
Can we introduce Gerard so the public would know who's speaking at this time?
That's a great idea, Alderman
still
Boyd.
have
Thank you.
Well,
This
that's okay.
is
So
Gerard Hollins, our financial analyst for the Board of Aldermen. If we could, do you have other comments?
No.
No, okay.
Well, I still didn't get my question answered, so does
So I
it
think we don't know.
say-
I think we're not sure. We
Oh,
don't have
okay,
it- we don't
because
have it in
then,
front of us,
to me,
so.
that's kind of disingenuous. People are signing a petition, they don't know what they're even signing.
If they read the full,
How accurate would that be, or how could that hold up?
we would have to see what they're actually handing people to sign.
Right,
The
that's what I
signature
meant.
form, I don't know, but if they go and look up the petition, it's embedded in the petition.
Okay.
Alderman Vaccaro.
So, just so everybody understands my reasoning behind doing this. I was at a meeting, I think they're about halfway through the signatures that they need, but a long way to go. And it started by checking to see if we can even do this. I did talk to the mayor, she's actually talked to the comptroller's office, and the mayor's comment to me was she felt the auditor would do it based off what we want. I had our attorney look into it, and he got a letter basically saying that we should be able to do it. And, so if we can, I mean, I think it was made clear to all of us that, the people, the citizens across the board would like to see an audit. And so this, I'd like to see this because I don't think it's gonna save any money or make any money, but we certainly don't have anything to hide. And by trying to say, gee, well, let's wait or let's don't do this, I think it looks bad. I think if we're gonna be transparent, we go ahead and try and get this audit done. There's gonna be a cost. I'm glad that Jim was able to, say that we can do this over time, but my ask in this is that whoever you're gonna sit down with, Scott, if you would, and get a final version of what we wanna do, or if you wanna convert this into a board bill.
Well, I'm happy with this amendment as the final version,
Are
personally.
you?
Yeah,
So do we need to do any more, or can we go for a vote and move this on?
I'm ready, I'm ready
Well, you're the
to
chairman.
take a vote, yeah.
Can I say just
Alderman
one
Ireland?
thing?
Sure.
So we go forward this and whatever the cost is, so does that mean down the road, are we gonna have services cut for the people? Is there a possibility? If you spend $2 million on an audit,
No,
is there a possibility of any services being cut?
well, you don't know that, but what you do know are the people want this audit.
But
It's
what I
not-
also
it's not-
know is people want services too.
Yeah, I think people want
Yes.
services.
One at a time, please.
And that's my only concern. I don't have a problem with the audit, I just don't wanna see services cut.
Well, I don't know. I can't promise anything,
Right.
other than I know that people.
Let's have a vote on the amendment, and then I'll let people comment, and then Alderman Vaccaro can close, and then we'll vote on sending the resolution to the board.
So we're talking about amendment number 1.
Yes.
We're doing the amendment and then the floor
Yeah.
as amended, okay.
So I move we adopt amendment number 1 to resolution 169.
And I'll second that.
Madam Clerk, please call it.
Alderman Kennedy, Alderman Boyd,
Aye.
Alderman Arnowitz,
Aye.
Alderwoman Hubbard, Alderwoman Howard,
Aye.
Alderwoman Murphy,
Aye.
Alderman Ogilvy,
Aye.
Alderwoman Navarro,
Aye.
Chairman Vaccaro.
Aye.
7 I vote.
Okay, Mr. Welterman and Mr. Garavaglia, thank you for your time today. We'll go through the committee. If there are questions for Alderman Vaccaro or comments on the resolution, and then we'll vote on the amended resolution. Alderman Boyd, any final questions or comments?
After we vote on this, day, will we still hear back from Todd Walterman?
That's my question.
Yes.
So there'll be another legislative hearing? Or is it just gonna be?
I
Yes.
can't vote for it unless we hear.
Yeah, I can't either.
They,
I'm just
they
like,
are going to,
We don't
so
know
what
the
they've done over the last couple weeks at the request of this committee, and I think also because they want to do it, is they've been going to all the departments and asking for information on what was implemented from that 2010 audit. They're compiling that. It's not quite done, but it'll be done, Todd said, next week, and they'll distribute that to, I'll have them distributed to the full board so everybody can see.
well, that was a
what-
resolution that was introduced.
So,
wasn't it?
so we're not gonna take a vote on this today?
We are.
I can't.
But there's some colleagues that are concerned that,
I want to hear what Todd said.
that we don't have all the information from
I don't think we
departments.
do.
Well, I think that information is related to the 2010 audit, and I think we're voting on a new audit. So,
Okay.
thank you. Alderwoman Howard.
I would like a fiscal note attached to this also, if that's possible.
You don't need one on the resolution. That's
I know
what
we
it
don't
shows
need one, but I think it needs to
If
be
it's a
clear
bill.
that we're gonna be spending money to do
And-
this.
and-
And that's my main thing about this is, one, we haven't gotten the results back from the resolution that was introduced to find out what's going on in each office and what changes have been made. And, you know, we jump to doing things so quickly sometimes that we end up embarrassing ourselves. And I've seen that too much, and I would rather wait and see what their findings are, then move forward with this if we feel it necessary. Or, I would like to have an audit that tells us more about processes and performances and where we can find money, instead of raising taxes again. And I think that's where a lot of this stems from, a lot of the frustration of people wanting an audit is because they're feeling as though they're being taxed. And we have to look beyond just, beyond what people want to deliver the services we're designated here and we're elected to do in an efficient manner. And I think, you know, just haphazardly saying, we gotta hurry up and get this done because, you know, that's what the people want. I think we're again, you know, fire, aim, you know,
No,
in that way.
there's over 3,000 people who've already signed.
I get that.
And I think as the Board of Aldermen,
Out of 300.
is it okay if I speak to?
Yeah, yep.
I think as the Board of Aldermen, we have an obligation, I mean, I'm listening to people in my neighborhood. We can say, well, this is one group or another, this is being asked by every group out there. My neighborhood feels the same way. This is simply, the stuff Todd's bringing is about the 2010 audit, which has nothing to do with this audit. We're asking now the comptroller to move forward. I think we have an obligation also to the people that are out gathering the signatures, because once we send this, if the comptroller were to say no, then at least they're moving along. We shouldn't be delaying anything. We've encouraged them to keep gathering signatures. It's my belief we can do this, and I really believe we should pass this along and get this in front of the auditor as soon as possible. It has, again, nothing to do with the 2010 audit.
I understand this is a completely
Right,
different
and
audit,
Todd
but
is
if
gonna
we
bring us-
didn't fix it the first time,
Then we should give up on it this time.
no,
the
I'm
people-
just
the
saying
people-
we need to look
the-
at what efficiencies we
the-
found with the last audit and if we didn't, if it affected any change.
Okay, but that does not affect this audit. This is an audit that people are asking for,
I get
and
that,
we have an obligation.
but I
at
think
least
what they're
believe.
asking for, I would rather say that people wanna know how we're spending our money and what it means to them. An audit, is an answer that most people think it's gonna fix something, but it's a process, it's not a fix.
But
And I
it's
think
the
as an
beginning of-
elected official, I would feel better about fixing some of the inefficiencies in city government rather than adding to the inefficiencies.
I disagree.
I'm done.
Well, I disagree with that.
Okay,
I mean,
well, you can
I
disagree and we can agree to disagree,
But I'll fin-
I disagree too.
Well, now I'm answering, or I don't even have to answer, I'll give my, the issue is, so let's just say they say, well, we didn't do all of this, then we should stop this? No.
Stop
We-
what?
Stop this audit from, the new audit from
I'm not
coming on?
saying,
This-
I'm
this is
saying we
simply-
we should
this-
not rush this. We
It's
should
not a matter
look.
of rushing it, it's a matter of getting it in front. We have an obligation, the people that are out there gathering signatures, to get it in front to find out whether or not we can do this, is my understanding.
Well, we know we can do it,
Well, we
we can,
don't-
we're
well, we
we're
believe-
lawmakers.
We believe we can do it. I'm basing it off of what I'm being told by our attorney, I'm basing it off of some conversations, but I agree with what the chairman was saying, that we're gonna find out, because they could choose to say no. It's ultimately gonna be up to the auditor, and we have the obligation to get this in front of them. I believe they're gonna say
So
yes.
if the people gather the signatures, the auditor can tell them no also?
No,
Well, see, there you go.
no, but
Okay.
we're gonna save them the time and aggravation. I think we need this show that, and be transparent, and I believe as a Board of Aldermen, we should pass this.
I think
And
as
get it in
being
front of-
transparent, we need to look at the processes and procedures and move
Well, thi-
more
and this-
deliberately and more efficiently in what we do, rather than, going out to spend $1.5 to $2 million because people are out there gathering signatures. That's just
Well,
my thought.
I'm supporting the people in my neighborhood.
Well, I support the people, but I think we need to be prudent. Okay.
Thank you. Alderman Arlitz, any questions for Alderman Vaccaro or comments on the amended resolution?
I think the arguments on both sides have been brought up. And I'll just say again, I'm not against an audit, but, my main concern is if we, does go and say yes, nobody can tell me if services will be cut. And, I'm speaking for my people too. So, everybody, we all hear about trash every day, this doesn't get done. $2 million is a lot of money to cut out of budget, so what do? We've raised people's trash. A few years back, the farmer mayor said, we're raising your trash bill so you can have trash picked up twice a week. Well, he fibbed, and I'll be nice, it was trash once a week and recycling. He didn't come on and say recycling, he said trash pickup. So we raised it for that, now we've raised the water because we have problems.
And we raised a half cent sales
We
tax.
got trucks that break down, we have this, we have that. My concern is, will we have to cut services? That's what we, of all things, don't need to do. I think everybody in the city that pays taxes deserve, services. Would a week make a difference if we get some more findings? I don't think so.
What difference would it make?
Well,
This is about the
my exact
2010
question,
audit.
my exact question to
Again,
you
how
is,
are we gonna pay
right,
for
what
this?
difference does a week make? I mean, we're not at the Indianapolis 500, we can still get this to the board and out of here in another week.
I'm going with the chairman. If he chooses to send this out today, I'm an absolute yes vote on this. And I would encourage everyone to be a yes vote because we're showing transparency. And I can tell you, I don't want my name on a vote that kills the audit. But the chairman ultimately is gonna have to say today, so.
I've only been an alderman for 2 terms, but I worked for the city for 35 years. I never heard the biggest use of transparency for 35 years when I worked for the city. Where was all those audits for transparency then, when we were in better shape money-wise? And I don't have a problem with an audit. I really don't. I just, you know, I want to make the right decision, get an audit, but I don't want to cut services, and hopefully we don't.
We're not
I
gonna,
don't believe that they'll use all that overtime in the police department, but, you know,
Well,
We-
it sounds like this wouldn't hit
One at,
until.
sorry, one at a time.
Okay.
right. I'm
I was
done,
gonna
I'm
wait,
done,
but
Mr.
I've been waiting
Chairman.
long, so I just thought I would respond real quick. I'm sorry.
My attorney helped me.
Thank you, Alderman Honor. It's Alderwoman Murphy.
No, like I said, I'm not against the transparency or anything. 3,000 people is not the bulk of the city, though. And that's why I questioned whether they even know what the cost is going to be. 3,000 signatures is a drop in the bucket for the registered voters in the city. And if they didn't even know it was gonna cost 2 million, they might not have even signed it, if they knew. I'm just, please. If they knew exactly what it cost, maybe they wouldn't even signed it. And I think the part about the 220, I get your 2010 audit business. I think what Alderman Howard was trying to say is that if we didn't do anything with that audit, and we don't know what has improved or whatever, why would we do another one at the cost of 2 million? That's why I wanted to wait and see what Todd had to say about some of the efficiencies, findings, whatever, to see if there actually was some sort of a change or whatever. Like I said, an audit is not going to change anything. It's what you do with the audit. If we didn't do anything in 2010, what's going to force us to do anything in whenever this audit is completed?
well,
Except that it's going to cost us 2
so
million plus.
in 2010, a bunch of people got together, signed a petition saying that they felt things needed to be changed back then. And there were some things changed, like the cars. One of the things that haven't been changed is how the payroll's done through the city. It's not computerized. There's gonna be some things that were done, some things were not done. Fast forward now 17, almost 18 years now, and people feel that there needs to be an audit. To say that, gee, you know what, our old car doesn't get the same mileage it used to get, so we're gonna think about whether we should get a new car or maybe just keep driving the old car. This is simply to show that we support an audit, we send it to the auditor, and if she goes along with it, the people gathering signatures can quit gathering signatures
Well,
if
they
she
said
doesn't.
they were not going to quit. They told us
No,
at the last
I
committee
understand
meeting
it,
they
and
weren't going to quit anyway.
we encourage them to keep going. We never said stop. We're just trying to do something to be more helpful. I believe we can get this done by us, and I believe that we should exercise our authority to have it done. And again, I am in full support of this. I mean, even though I'm the one that put it together, along with John Mohammed, and with the help of our attorney, I honestly believe that we need to get this to the auditor so that she could make a decision, so we know, because if the auditor says no, then I'll go out and help gather signatures. But one way or the other, this needs to get in front of the auditor, and this needs to happen. We
Well, I
can't
can
think
see-
about the old audit, we can't talk about, we don't know so I would like to know what the taxes we're gonna bring in next year, or the year after, or 5 years from now, we don't know. So how do we know about city services? You know, I mean, things we're asking are relevant to this audit. This is simply putting in front of the auditor the opportunity that, for us to exercise our ability, which I believe we have, to have an audit done. And I know, you know, we don't know what the future's gonna bring, but I do believe that there's enough people in my neighborhood that want this audit, and I'm in favor of it. And so I'll quit commenting, and I
Well,
apologize.
okay, then,
Well,
so,
it's-
I see, I understand, no,
We
I
still
had the
haven't
floor, I
gone to-
believe.
No, I think that
He
he was going.
called on me.
Okay.
Yes, we're in the question or comment of Alderman
Murphy.
Vaccaro period, so,
He was answering me,
okay.
wasn't
You
he?
still have the floor, though.
Okay.
sorry.
No, so I was just saying that an audit is just that, it's an audit. It doesn't imply that you're going to change anything. You know, and if we didn't do it before, you know, an audit just presents the information. It doesn't say you have to do this, you know, that office has to do that. Or it might say should or whatever, but it doesn't say it has to do it. And so I think that's just one of my concerns, is that we're going to, you know, compile all this information again. And it's gonna cost us a lot of money, and it's just gonna be all the information again. Anyway, I'm done, thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Alderwoman Navarro.
Thank you. I'm supportive of an audit. I hear the concern about how we're gonna pay for it, and what's been persuasive to me, if I have this right, Alderman Vaccaro, is that, one, we probably wouldn't start paying for this until the next fiscal year to be spread out over 2 to 3 years.
Right.
Okay, so that is persuasive to me, and that's all I wanted to confirm.
Okay, thank you, everybody. I will just very briefly comment that we have implemented many of the things in the 2010 audit, although not all of them. And the 2010 audit did not include the police department, which is 35+% of the city's budget. So there's a lot of new ground to cover in a new audit. And I think we also may be able to take a closer look at some of the revenue generated by the county offices that was not included in the previous audit. With that, if Alderman Vaccaro would like any further comments to close, you're welcome to make them, and then we'll.
I would, if you'll accept it, I'd like to make a motion that we pass the resolution out with a due pass recommendation to the full board.
So I'm gonna move that we pass Resolution 169 as amended out to the full board with a due pass recommendation.
Question.
I'll second that.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderman Kennedy,
There was a question.
He doesn't
On the
know.
motion,
I
is
guess
there a
you
question
don't
on the
have
motion?
Is there a question on the motion?
I just want, I didn't really hear him say that before about it's gonna be spread out over 2 or 3 years that we pay for it.
we don't know that.
No, but that's what
But if you
Jim
if
said.
you
That was the
guaranteed it.
testimony.
Jim's
by
testimony
Jim.
was that it'll be spread.
That was a suggestion, I don't.
And it's also the way it was done last time. It was paid over 2 years in 2010, and we anticipate being able to do the same thing again. But we've got a motion and a second on the floor. Please call the roll.
Alderman Kennedy, Alderman Boyd,
Pass.
Alderman Arnowitz,
Aye.
Alderwoman Hubbard, Alderwoman Howard,
Pass.
Alderwoman Murphy,
Aye.
Alderman Ogilvy,
Aye.
Alderwoman Navarro,
Aye.
Chairman Vaccaro,
Aye.
Alderman Kennedy, Alderman Boyd,
Aye.
Alderwoman Hubbard, Alderwoman Howard,
Aye.
7 aye votes, do pass.
Okay, thank you. I will take I move that we adjourn the legislation committee to future time. Second?
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
I
Thank
think
you.
you can adjourn without a motion.
I wanna see,
So are we
I
gonna
wanna
meet
see
with
the
Mr.
guarantee
Wolfman
under
about
2 or 3 years.